Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to our new location and back to the book of Ruth. Redemption for the nation. And speaking of that, I hope you've noticed through Ruth right now how she is kind of a type of Abraham who leaves her family and her idols behind to follow Yahweh and his people. And it's in that context that God, like with Abraham, shows grace through the hands of Boaz, even to the point of making a vow with her, right? A covenant to redeem her. Sounds like Abraham. So we are presented with this amazing gift of redemption for her. And last time we were questioning ourselves, what's the point with this text? This moment when they met in the evening, why did God talk to us about that? I mean, you have to even step back and wonder, why did he present the story in this way? Yes, he wanted to talk to us about Ruth, but why in such a condensed version, like a play with 4 acts instead of 3? Why the section we saw last time? And in that we kind of tried to answer that question, because in the reality of the grace she was receiving from Boaz, and even under the law that she should be redeemed by Boaz, who was the next of kin, there's still a sense where she asked, because having a relational grace with the Lord does not exclude the fact of asking. That's what I speculate was one of the main reasons for this text. Well, we're going to keep asking all these questions as we get to the conclusion of this act, the third act, that is, of why does it end in this way? We're even going to ask the question, what do we do after we ask? You'll see how they both converge, actually, these two questions. What's interesting to notice, though, is how this is the third time Ruth goes home. Yeah. I mean, she went home with Naomi in Act 1, and then she went back home to Naomi in Act 2, and now she's going to do it again. Go back home to Naomi. Interesting, right? How 3 times she goes back home. It's almost like God is saying to his people through this story, you can always come back home. Remember, this was written in the time of the judges, the story I mean, but I should say the story happened in the time of the judges, but it was probably written after the reign of David, when Israel started to go downhill, right? Solomon, and then the split of the kingdom. But remember, you can always come back home. You can always come back to God. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But again, this is God talking to us through this story, revealing himself to us. That's what I have to keep in mind when we're trying to understand what's this conclusion about. Now, it's all built off this interaction between Boaz and Ruth in the middle of the night, and Boaz ending by saying, stay here until the morning, and he even repeats it. And we're asking the question, well, will she, as Naomi told her, obey everything Boaz said? Well, let's look at it. So she lay at his feet until the morning, but arose before one could recognize another. And he said, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. God speaks in specific ways. The narrator is led to give us specific information, and we want to try to figure that out. The fact that Ruth waited until the morning shows she obeyed. Okay, but then what does the narrator explain? It was before they could recognize one another. He could have just said before daybreak. But no, he talks about recognizing, right? Knowing, perceiving somebody. And you have Boaz speaking up for some reason and simply saying, may not a woman be, nobody know the woman came here. Again, no, knowledge. You probably know that in the Old Testament, the idea of knowledge was also a euphemism for intimacy. Sorry. Like Abraham knew his wife, Sarah. Now, it's not the same words, but it's interesting that they keep using this synonyms to that same idea of knowing. Almost like the narrator, almost like God, through in the mouth of Boaz is saying, nothing happened between them. Because remember, this is Ruth the Moabitess. They're known for sleeping with people and taking advantage of them, like that's how they started, right? The daughters who slept with their father. But here's the narrator in different ways, just She's letting us know it was pure. This is something much more beautiful than they were intimate with one another. But I digress. Because Boaz is not finished talking actually. Yeah, he's going to say this. And he said, bring the garment you were wearing and hold it out. So she held it. And he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. Then she went into the city. Again, the words are interesting. Boaz is commanding her, right? Bring. Not could you please, it's do. Again, he's telling her what to do. And as Naomi advised her, do whatever Boaz asks. And she does. And bring the garment, hold it out, and she does that. Now the garment is not the coat, it's not her clothes. It was probably some kind of scarf. Maybe like this, but probably not. But this big scarf that women would wear. So put on a big scarf. And what does he do with it? He puts 6 measures. What measures? Remember, in chapter 2, we saw a specific measure, an ephah, which was about 25 to 50 pounds. So we had an idea of how much food she got in that one day of gleaning, which was absolutely impossible without the grace of God. But here, the narrator doesn't give us a specific measure, it just says measures. Like I say, it's just abundant. But notice he says 6. Because it was 6 measures, but also 6 is a number of imperfection. 7 is perfection. You probably know that. And I'm making it up. That's biblical numbers. Well, is there a way that God's saying she's being blessed, but this isn't the full blessing? I think of Israel back in the desert. God promising when you enter, it's going to be a land of milk and honey. Houses already built for you. You won't have to build. Vineyards and everything will be prepared for you. You just have to take them. And Israel in the desert is saying, this doesn't look like it. Where's all the stuff? But God saying, no, it's over there. This is not the abundance. This is the way to the abundance. But he still provided for them out here. Right? In the desert, he still provided food. And still they complain. They wanted meat, if you remember. He provided water. And then when the waters seemed to be bitter or whatever, they would speak against God. Murmur against him. Because they forgot this is 6 measures. This is the imperfect provision. Just like us. How many Christians think it's all about the healing and the blessing and the miracles here and now? No, it's not. Everything that we need, from glorified bodies that will never get sick again, is in the New Jerusalem, the new heavens, the new earth, with God forever. Not here now. So, again, 6 measures. Not the fullness of it. But maybe I'm exaggerating. What you do need to take note of is this is actually in the masculine. He went into the city. Boaz. This is the narrator again giving you some I can't say it right. Point to the future. I don't know why I'm having a mind spasm here, but he's showing us, even for a minute, camera panning on Boaz, showing him just leaving towards the city. He's going to do what he said. He's going to be faithful. But for now, I'm going to come the camera right back on Ruth, see what happens when she goes home. But still, the narrator is telling us Boaz will be faithful. And you're going to see it in the next act. But for now, let's see what happens with Ruth when she gets home. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, "How did you fare, my daughter?" Then she told her all the men had done for her. This is again, I have to make some slight correction. The actual question that Naomi asks is, "Who are you, my daughter?" Sounds weird, right? That's when most translations try to figure out what she probably meant by that. Like, did it work? Are you going to be his wife? Huh? Who are you in that sense? But I don't think we should do that. See, the question comes back to when Boaz also met her in the middle of the night and said, "Who are you?" It reminds of that interaction they had. The conversation, the promises from Boaz. Because when Ruth explains what happened, she only talks about what he did. We just saw what he did. He gave her barley. But that's not all that happened. But that one phrase, "Who are you?" We're going in a flashback mode and reminded that there was also a whole conversation and promises. Even though she doesn't speak of it right now, it's presented by that one phrase, that one question, that little flashback. Plus, in that question, I believe God is putting really an exclamation mark about who Ruth is now. Remember, she kept being called Ruth the Moabitess for 2 chapters. Ruth the Moabitess, Ruth the Moabitess. And then when she met up with Boaz, she said, I'm Ruth, your servant. Showing how she's become a part of Israel now. To the point of saying, you can redeem me because I'm part of Israel now. And here's God, I believe, through this simple question of Naomi, who are you? Ruth can say, I am an Israelite now. I'm part of the family of faith. And in this family of faith, God has blessed me through Boaz. What did he do exactly? Well, let's remind ourselves. And it was not that far ago, but still, saying, these 6 measures of barley he gave me. For he said to me, that's interesting, you must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law. Did you notice how we read verse 15 and 16, Boaz talking, and never did he say those words? And yet, he did say them. To the point it had to be said now. It had to be said point blank. It had to be said. That he did not want Ruth to go back empty-handed. Now that phrase, again, the words, should bring us all the way back to chapter 1. In that moment when Naomi says, do not call me Naomi, but Mara, bitter, because the Lord is against me. And I can say this because I left Israel in abundance and I came back empty-handed. Same word. Here's God saying through Boaz, you're not empty-handed anymore, Naomi, don't worry. Even though this is about Ruth getting married and being taken care of, and even though legally and technically speaking, she owes nothing to Naomi. Naomi's not her actual family, remember? She's a Moabite, she's an Israelite, not the same family, she owes nothing to her. But she made a covenant in chapter 1 that she would care for her. Here's God saying, I approve this covenant and I'll make sure you're taken care of, Naomi. Don't worry. And all that because of Ruth. Just like we are blessed and cared for because of Christ. It's all because of Him. That God takes care of us and helps us and provides for us because of what He did and because we're in Him. Never forget that. But yes, Naomi, don't worry. You won't be empty-handed anymore. The words of Boaz speak as if from heaven itself, saying, Naomi, you're not going to be empty-handed. Don't worry. So here's Naomi giving her last piece of advice and the application for this last section. She replied, wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out. For the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today. Repetition. Here's more of the words we want to pay attention to. The repetition of it all. Wait. Stay here. Think of Jesus saying, abide in me. Very similar. Stay here and rest in a sense, because this man will not rest. Wait to see how the matter, and interesting, huh? Same word here, matter, because it's the same word, it's debar, and it means word, as in the promises that Boaz said. Wait to see if he fulfills them, because I can promise you, he will fulfill them. It's almost like that's what she's saying. Right? The matter will turn out. He won't settle. He will settle. He will settle. So it turned out, settle, again, similar words. You can just wait until you see the words come to fruition, because Boaz is going to make sure the words come to fruition and give no rest himself for that. As God is at work in our life, He says, wait and trust me. So this is what happens after you've prayed and you've cast your cares upon Him and you wait because He cares for you. You've humbled yourself before Him. He will raise you up in His timing. You just wait. You just trust. These words of Naomi, in a sense, is wisdom from God, saying, now that you've come to me and cast your cares upon me, you wait. You wait for my provision. You wait for my timing. You wait for my promise to accomplish itself in your life. And not your personal promises from God, but His written promises in His very word. So that's what you do after you've asked. That's, I believe, the application or what this conclusion is all about. A good reminder that there is a call to wait and to trust upon our God. I hope this has been encouragement and blessing to you, because I can promise you, it really spoke to me. Been going through a difficult situation, trying to solve things, putting on to the Lord again, and the Lord reminding me, through this, just wait. Let me work. Trust me. brothers and sisters, maybe He's speaking to you about that too. Be blessed.